All right, guys. So we're reading over the Warhammer 40,000 handbook that you get with the Get Started. So, contents, you kind of go over the introduction stuff, how to build your models, read about Space Marines and Tyranids, and then the Learn to Play section. So, really, it's just the welcome. It talks about like what Warhammer 40,000 is, getting into the hobby and everything. And this is just like a brief kind of overview of me just reading over this for like a new player. I haven't played a match yet with anyone or a game yet with anyone. It goes into, the universe is at war. Tyranids and Space Marines are what you get inside of this. How the Tyranids are basically trying to eat everything, and these are humanity's like saviors, their best warriors, and all that. And then there's stuff with like chaos, just doing a number on stuff. But again, Tyranids are the great devourer, just eating and killing everything. It's kind of cool if you want to go into the lore, talking about like the Imperium, and just like how they sacrifice all these people to the Emperor every single day. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And then so it goes into how to build. If you haven't ever built before, it kind of goes like the side by side of like putting all the armor together, putting the arms inside, just different little tidbits, and it goes about like different like training scenarios and missions and stuff like that. Again, kind of just your how to build every model, and it goes over all that. I'm gonna skip over it because I've already built everything. My favorite Terminators. It goes into the horde of gaunts that you get. You get 20 of them, and then you get 2 Ripper Swarms. You get 5 of the Flamers. I think they're Flame Intercessors, I think they're called. And then the Von Ryan Leapers are pretty cool. They're like smaller lectors or lictors. And then here's both armies full. You get 5-man squad of Terminators, and then their little marker for where they drop in. The Flamers, so you get 4 Flamers, and then a Flamer who's a sergeant. You get a captain, and then you get the 20 Gaunts, 3 Von Ryan Leapers, the Psychophage, and then you get the cool Tyranid Prime. Kind of more lore on the Ultramarines here, the Space Marines. Just really just kind of goes off like who they are, the ultimate strike force and all that. So you have like a good core army unit, or like a good start to a Space Marine army. Again, you can paint it whatever. These are the blue guys, but again, you can paint it whatever scheme you want. And it goes into, what are the captains, the captain and Terminator armor, what all he has, all that kind of stuff. Goes in a little bit about the Terminators, being elite Space Marines who have proven themselves on the battlefield time and time again. And then Infernus squads, that's what they're called, not Intercessor squad, I'm sorry. But so that's what those guys are. And yeah, so it just goes over like a little bit backstory of what they are. Talks in about 1,000 chapters where you can, pick your Ultramarines, Blood Angels, White Scars, Imperial Fists, Iron Hands. You can do Space Wolves, all Dark Angels, all that kind of stuff. It just kind of like segues into there's 1,000 chapters, but you can make your own. Then the next one's a Tyranid, really cool picture of a Tyranid, like just really good graphics inside of there to kind of captivate you. I really like with all the destruction and the bioforming and everything. The green from either a gun or some kind of egg, and just the Tyranid, the great devourer. How it's the Tyranids are a vast devouring swarm from beyond the galaxy. They are beyond counting in countless hunger, consuming world after world and leaving nothing but dust in their wake. Linked with a single psychic hive mind, the Tyranids are merciless and incredibly adept. So it kind of goes into like how there's like a control unit, how they work off of like synapse. Like the bigger ones help control the little ones. So this Tyranid Prime is helping all these guys communicate together to attack them like uniformly. And then again, just like it did with the Space Marines, Tyranid Prime, Psychophage, Terminator, Termagants, and then the Ripper Swarms are the little ones. The Von Ryan Leapers. Just how they're like just really cool. Like, they're just a cool faction. But again, just like the Space Marines, you can pick multiple tendrils of the Hive. You know, there's thousands of them, if not tens of thousands of them. You can feel free to make your own. Probably the more popular is the purple guys, the Leviathan, the Behemoth, Kronos is which I kind of painted my Tyranids like, Kraken, and then Gorgon, and how they're all like special. Like the Kronos are like the shooty army. Leviathan bone swords are shrouded. Tyranids are like Behemoth is like they're the pokey guys that get in and do everything. Leviathan's kind of like your well-rounded. Gorgon is they use the big hive weapons and stuff like that. Just like Kronos, where you're likely to be torn apart by sting projectiles and lethal biobombs. And then it goes into a game like no other, where it talks about like the basics, dice rolls. So one dice is a d6, and then 2d6 is 2 dice. So if you see on the rules for different characters or weapons and stuff like that, that's what it means. Models, units. So this is a Space Marine, Captain, and Terminator armor. And it's considered a single. And then Tyranid, Termagants, and Ripper Swarms are a single unit made up of several models. So it's the difference between a single unit and a squad. Measurement showing you like the distance between stuff, and that's where you get like the little clear, or you can use a tape measure if you're more advanced. Data sheets kind of goes into on all of them. I don't know if it's really going to translate well, but it'll talk about how so movement is 5 inches, toughness 5, save is 2+, wound is 6, and then just different stuff, and it goes into all that kind of good stuff on like what all it means. So like LD is your leadership, R is your range. So like you get a 24-inch for the range for his gun. He has 2 attacks, and then but with his melee sword, if you're doing melee, he has 5 attacks. So it just kind of reads off the whole data sheet on how different things play. A easy training scenario. I actually did this. Just built the 2 models and set them up next to each other and went back and forth. And it's just you kind of do like a simple scenario, and they show you in here for like an example. Let me take my data sheets out, and it's again they're just base to base, and so it goes over like, okay, he attacks with it because they're base to base, so they're both doing melee. So the captain, you get 5 dice, you roll them, and he hits on 2+, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are hits, 1s are misses. So let's say he hit 2. So you take 2 dice and you roll for wounds. So anything under a 4 is a fail. So 4, 3, 2, 1, he fails a hit. But if he hits the psychophage, you rolled 5 dice, 2 of them only hit, and 2 of them go through. So now the psychophage gets a chance because he wounded with 2 dice. So he has to roll 5 up. So 5 and 6 he saves, and 4 and under he gets wounded. And then you do your 1 damage is -2. So, and then again, it kind of goes off of how the psychophage, where he hits on 3+. So again, he hits. He has 4 attacks. You roll those. You hit on all those. So you're 3+. So again, it's going into the same thing as the Space Marine captain, where he has to roll through his wounds, where he hits 2+, or 3+ on that, and then so 2 and 1s he fails, and then you just kind of go out until the models die. The next one kind of goes off of like your tutorial for movement. So like if you had your just set up, you had guys 12 inches away, and you're moving them. So these Terminators have a movement of 5. So you put your little clear rod down, you move them 5 little spaces, and that's where they are, the end of it. So it goes the front base to the end of it. So it's not you put it on the other side and that's it, where you get 6. It's from the base to the base, like base front to the base front of the line. That's something important I was reading up on. Coherency. So again, you can't just like have models staggered out all over the place and call it, that, so you can hit at different angles on stuff. They have to be within 2 inches of each other. So again, 2 inches is your little spacer on there is where you can do. Typically people just put them in like a group like that where they're within 2. It talks about walls. You can't move through walls. You only can move around them. And then another thing with walls, it talks about line of sight. So like whenever these Tyranids are shooting at them, so there's a squad of 6 right here, and they're shooting at these Infernus Marines. So they're shooting at them. They only can see 2, right? Or the Infernus Marines are shooting at them. These guys can't shoot because they can't shoot through the wall and they don't see anyone. If you drew an imaginary line on the side, they can't see. He can't see, but he can see and he can see. So these guys get to shoot. And then it just goes up on like how their ranged weapons, like, so they get a 12-inch range, D6 attack. So you roll a dice for each one. So you'd roll 2 dice, and then whatever that would come up is your attacks. And then going over, rolling to wound. This is, again, kind of something cool where it talks about like the strength is twice or more than the figure. It's a 2+. Strength is greater is 3+. Strength is equal to is +4. Strength is lower than the toughness, it's +5. Strength is half or less. So if it's like and they go on to show you in here like what that would be like the Terminator's strength is greater than the Gaunt's, so it's half plus, I think it is. But yeah, so this is like kind of a confusing chart. I liked the beginning where they kind of go over this right here, and it talks about like how you wound and all that. I liked the captain in the psychophage where you wound, so he wounds with his because he's a toughness. His toughness is higher, so he hits on 5, or they're equal, I guess, the psychophage and the Terminator captain. But yeah, and then it kind of goes into like the scenarios where they set up a easy extraction thing where you get the captain and you get 4 Terminators and then 10 Termagants, and then the psychophage in the middle. Just a flat mat. It's pretty easy, straightforward. And then it goes off and it shows you like the roll by roll for all that kind of stuff where it talks about the movement phase, the shooting phase, and then just like a quick reference for it. So you can literally just set the models up, play out the scenario, do the Tyranids. It shows for like that what you would do for like the again, movement phase, and then the shooting phase, all that kind of good stuff. And then it gives you, again, the quick reference is pretty good. Just to show you like, hey, the captain hits on 2+, Terminators hit on 3+. The captain for attack per model unit is 2+, and then the Terminators again are 3+. Then it goes against the psychophage, and then it goes against the Termagant. So if the captain's ever attacking the Termagants, you're just using that. If the captains or the Terminators are attacking the psychophage, you're just using that right there. And then again, it get flip-flops to show you the Tyranid side, where you get to learn. So like if the psychophage is attacking, he gets D6 attacks. Take a dice, you roll it. That's how many attacks he gets. He automatically hits, and then he wounds on 3+. So instead of rolling for hits, you're just rolling for three up. So you're hitting on 3, 4, 5, 6. So he only misses on 2s and 1s. And then they can save only on a 3+. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Let's see here. Again, if the Termagants were attacking any of the unit, right? Because again, they're the same. 1 attack per model, so you just take 1. So you take 10 dice, you roll them. If you got 4, 5, or 6, they hit. They would go in for the wounds. How many wounds they get, you would roll. After you got that, let's say you got 6 out of whatever, and then you take the 6 dice that hit, you roll 4 pluses, and those are wounds. And then for them to save, it's just 2+. So Termagants, that's why you get so many shots. But again, the saves is what gets you, so because they're not that strong of a unit. But again, they're playing against like heavy duty units. So, like, if they're playing guard or other Termagants, it'd be easier for them to hit. And then it just goes on to, like, in advance. So you would get, like, if he's not going to shoot, right? The advance roll is D6 before you move any model in. Add the result to D6 to that movement characteristic when moving this turn. So again, if they do this, they can't shoot. So if he moves his 5 inches and then he rolled a 4, right? He would move 4 more inches, but the captain can't shoot, right? But for falling back, if a unit is being attacked, they can move their 6 inches backwards, like a fullback, like they're in a fight with these Von Ryan leapers. They can only move back 6 inches, right? Is within one inch of the enemy. They can only remove stationary or fall back. Tutorial for charging example. So it's you would get they starting back here, the Von Ryan leapers, and they want to go in and attack him. They get their 2 dice, they roll them. So it's a 5, they get a 5 inches of charge. So if they fail the charge and he needs 5 inches to get there, right? And he rolled a 4, he failed by 1 inch, so they don't get to go in. It has to be within model to model, base to base contact. So it's just kind of a cool little thing that they show, like every single little scenario. Going into assault. So with the assault, they're within 3 inches, each model in the unit up to 3 inches to get for piling in. So like if one model got in there, you can consolidate the other ones within 3 inches of it. So if you had a whole entire squad, they all don't get to go in, just the ones in the 3 inches. So if you had these guys, like it was Gaunts or something, and it was like 6 of them, not all of them would be getting attacks, but only the couple that were up by him for base-to-base contact. But yeah, and it goes into a couple other like examples of combat that's going on here, of like what can happen. Objective markers. It talks about like the controlled objective markers. So like if everyone's on here, it's like a contested. But if they're on an objective and then they're within a certain one, it's considered not controlled, but you have to be within 1 inch of the objective. So that's kind of cool. So if like they killed off like half of the squad over here, right, it would be considered controlled objective because they're 3 inches or whatever. They would be considered they control it. And then it goes into like a whole training scenario where you have all the pieces, how to play. So in this, you will use the movement, toughness, and save characteristics on your units. Data sheet, you will also use the melee weapons they have in this battle to ignore any ranged weapons your units are armed with. So it's basically just a hand-to-hand combat scenario. And yeah, so at the end of the first turn, Space Marine players rolls a d6, place the teleport Homer on the battlefield in the zone corresponding to the number you rolled. Teleporting Homer is the objective on the marker. So again, they're just placing the marker inside of there. But yeah, and you just have to secure 2 victory points. Yeah. And then it goes into like the actual how everything plays out, like the movement, charge, combat. Then it goes into Tyranids turn, movement, charge, combat. And again, you don't have to play it in order. Like if you wanted to play the Tyranids or you wanted to play the Space Marine first or second, it just kind of goes off of who goes first, and they just give the example of Space Marine always going first. And then it kind of goes off from after you've like played a actual like full turn based like simple game. Then it kind of goes off into Hunters in the Void, where it's got really cool art. I really like this, where there's these Tyranid ships devouring these like capital ships and stuff like that. So it's like the Tyranids have won and they've invaded and they've eaten everything. Kind of goes into like how the Tyranid are. And then it goes into one here is like, this is a total warfare scenario. Again, this is where you're actually going to be shooting and doing melee combat. The last one was just you're going to do melee combat. And it kind of goes into your deployment zones. And it talks about, the Tyranid units. It's using all of them. The Tyranid Prime Psychophage, Von Ryan Leapers, 10 Termagants, and plus 1 Ripper Swarm, 10 Termagants plus 1 Ripper Swarm. You can deploy anywhere in your deployment. And then Space Marines, you get 1 captain, you get 5 Terminators, and 5 Infernus Marines. You can deploy anywhere near your turn. So if everyone wanted to deploy right on the side, just on the edge right here, you can. If they wanted to deploy over here, they can. So they're the closest, or they probably want to be a little bit further away. The Space Marines and these bugs want to be as close as possible to the edge to run across and get them. Now we're going to go on to the next. It kind of, again, it goes into the turn sequence for this, where like how everything happens. Again, you're doing movement phase, shooting phase, because now you're shooting, charge phase, and then the fight phase. And then again, they show you like, so they all deployed in their spots. They were up on the edge, and then they deployed, and then everyone just moved out. Again, they all ran across the board. And they're all shooting. So it's kind of cool how they give you the example of how everything actually can play out with this. Then it goes on to the battle continues. They play a Dawn of War style, I think this one is called, where it's 1/2 and 1/2. Then you have the dead zone in the middle. And then it kind of goes into, you can use rules from Total Warfare to make your own battles, flip the battle mat over after removing your models from it for, of course, and your opponents can set up terrain in your collection or build new battlefield. Like, you can just add on different stuff if you wanted to. So if you wanted to put like a tower right here in the middle, or like a wall halfway over here and the only entryway is over here or something, or however you wanted to do it, you can. And it talks about like objective markers, different stuff like that. And then again, it goes more advanced rules with like unit abilities like the Deep Strike, the Synapse, Alpha Warrior for Tyranids, all that kind of good stuff. Assault talks about the assault weapons. So like the Terminator that's holding the 6-shot, what is that? It's like a, not an auto cannon, but it's like an assault gun. He would get 6 shots, just different stuff where you can use like the rapid fire. So if they didn't move and they're within the 12 instead of the 24, they can shoot double, just different stuff like that. A little bit more advanced. And then this is my favorite part. It kind of goes into, so collecting Space Marine or Tyranid, however you want to go, it talks about like, hey, so collecting Space Marine, you're going to want to go and probably go collect and buy a librarian and Terminator armor for your next. To expand it out, just to give you psychic ability now. And then definitely go get the Space Marine Codex. Also, if you want, like this is the Space Marine one, you also can just go out and go get like Dark Angels or Space Wolves or whatever faction you're doing. But more than likely, you're going to need this Space Marine one. Just because it's got certain rules for certain models inside of there. And then again, we go over the Tyranid Codex. Tyranid are pretty straightforward. There's no multiple codexes for them for like individual hive strands. So you can go buy the Tyranid Codex, and then they recommend Barb Gaunts. So they're more shooty. They're wielding parasitic biocannons that fire citaceous missiles into the enemy ranks. Soften them up for your bioforms to finish them off. All 5 of these models are push fit. So again, it's like your entry level models to get into for like your next. So again, if you want to, I like Space Marines, so my next buy is going to be a librarian. But if you were a Tyranid person, they recommend probably getting Barb Gaunts. And again, you can go to different stuff. And it says it in here, like you can go get different things. Like if you didn't want to have Barb Gaunts in your army at all, you want something else, you can go do that. And again, goes over next steps. You probably want to go buy a core rule book, just to get like the whole backstory on everything, all the core rules, kind of like what we went in here, but a little bit more in depth. And then figure out how you're going to play. Like, are you going to be an epic campaigns person? Or are you going to do like match play or be like more tactical and go play just at your local store or something like that and do like scenarios? And so they're like, all right, if you're going to do that, then that's how you go off and go into this segue is what's called combat patrols. And that's kind of what you got with the 2 armies. But let's say you didn't like either of those armies, but you like the way the game plays. It gives you some other options, good starter options. So it shows like the Eldari where, they have their jet bikes and they have a core unit. They have a cannon. They have I don't think he's called a Farseer. I think it's called a something Weaver. And then they have one of the Knights. So like you get more heavy mech units, bikes, stuff like that. Or if you want to go into like Chaos, you would go get one of these where you get the Legionaries, you get a Hellbrute, you get a Captain, and just some other cool elites with it. Or if you want to go into, hey, I like having the Tyranids with all their guys, but I want more of like a human-based kind of thing. That's where you go into the Astra Militarium, where they hold the line, break your enemy with the Astra Militarium. The Astra Militarium, Astra Militarium's vast and ruthless discipline ground unit. Shatter your foes with range with artillery barrages and mechanized assaults before finishing them off with fusacious las fire from ranks upon ranks of drilled Imperial troops. So it's like, they're a shooty army, but again, they have like these big barrages and stuff on there. If you can see them in the back, they're pretty cool units where they just lob missiles over from range. They have a walker, kind of that Star Wars-esque. They have a little command unit and stuff with a banner. So it's just a really cool unit. And then again, goes into, now you're getting into it, you probably want to go get paint sets, some nips, paint brushes, all that. Talks about, once you picked your army and stuff, like this person, they're putting on the Ultramarine little logo for them. So you wouldn't want to put on the Ultramarine stuff if you're playing Blood Angels. You would use the Blood Angels one. And I have them right here. So if you wanted to, like, you get all this, so you can put all the different stuff on here. For, you got your Blood Angels, your Dark Angels, Space Wolves. You have the Raven Guard, the Rogel Dorn's people, Imperial Fists. What are they called? The not Death Watch. They're the Black Templars. Just different stuff. Or if you want to just make your own kind of thing, you can just put on like the numbers, all that kind of stuff. They have little Imperial sigils and different things like that. And they have white, black, all sorts of stuff. So it comes with a well-versed mix. There's the Ultramarines. But yeah. Oh, and it has a label there. So Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Raven Guard, Imperial Fist. Just a bunch of different stuff. So that's pretty cool. They give you that. And then it goes on to, painting Space Marines, painting Tyranids. Apparently, if you do tournaments, you have to have 3 colors. So you have to have, like, this person has, blue, black, and then the brown. And then I think they have some red stuff in there also, or the white. But that's pretty much what you want to have. You want to have, like, a purple skin cone, and then the black, and then they have a wash on there also. Again, you can paint them however you want. And then, yeah, this is only the beginning, the journey into the future. Explore the most expansive setting of sci-fi, science fiction, dozens of factions, thousands of miniatures, a million battlefields. So again, you can make whatever you want with all this stuff and make it how you want. Like, again, this person has a army or multiple armies, it looks like. He's got Ultramarines because they have Roboot Gilliman. They have the Grey Knights over here. They have a Talon in the background. They have Death, what are they? Death Watch right there. So you have all the cool characters with that. So yeah, you can play it however you want. You could, I've even heard of people, and I know it's probably not right, but they just bring a bunch of stuff that they think is cool and they just go against each other. Like, obviously you're not bringing Tyranids and Ultramarines and calling that your army, but like, if you have some Ultramarines and then you have some Blood Angels, you can just mix them together and just play it that way because that's the way you guys want to play. So, again, thanks for watching, guys. And remember, in the grim darkness of the future, there is only war. Thanks for watching.